There we go. Now
Now
we're
we're
recording.
recording.
But Walt, I appreciate you giving of your time today, and appreciate the 20 plus years that you gave to the Navy on this, and to defend our country, and that's important on there. So we look forward to what you have to show us today. I'll let you go ahead and take care of that. I'll keep an eye on chat as well.
Awesome.
So if
Well,
anybody has any questions, we'll
my
let you know.
pleasure. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen and we'll start talking through some stuff. So if you can't see my screen, holler at me and let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to roll through with this screen share like it is. So today we're going to talk about what I believe is the foundation of every successful business. I don't care if you're in real estate, you're in lending, you're in car sales, doesn't matter. If you can learn to set proper goals, learn to put a plan together to execute those goals, and then manage time effectively to go execute, you're going to be successful. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. This is not your traditional big philosophical dream big dreams and make goals. This is going to be some actionable stuff that you can put together. I see Don just shared in the chat a link to a Word document that we're going to break that Word document up as we go through this presentation to teach you how to do that. And then that Word document is for you to have to actually go do it for yourself based on your goals, your market metrics, things like that. So that is it in a nutshell for what we're going to talk about. This is me. I was in the top 3% of my entire MLS for closed transactions before I moved to Florida. That's ranked against other multi-agent teams, large real estate groups. All that to say, I love real estate. I do it well. I enjoy it. That led me down a coaching path and a book writing path. That's my first book, The Startup Agent. It's on Amazon. The second book is coming out later this year. 21-year Navy veteran, did a lot of fun stuff with that. I'm also an investor. The house I'm sitting in is about my 14th property in 20 years or so. And so now you know who's chatting at you at least. So if any of that resonates with you, great. Here is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start really big picture. I'm going to walk you through an exercise that I call casting your strategic vision, right? Goals are great, but if you don't know where they're leading you, what's the point of making them? So we're going to talk about that. And then we'll talk into a really nitty gritty, tangible, executable way to break down goals, turn them into monthly milestones, and then put action behind them so that you actually track your business and succeed with whatever the goal is. And then we will get just a smidge of philosophical in there when we talk about what knowledge is and isn't, right? I hate the term knowledge is power. I'll talk about it more as we go. And then we'll open this up for questions and we'll just talk through whatever you guys want to talk to. So let's get that started. I'm going to move pretty quick through this because I know we have a limited amount of time and I can talk forever on this stuff. So why do we start with a strategic vision? Well, I use a travel analogy, right? I am a Hawaiian shirt guru by trade. I literally got married in a Hawaiian shirt 20 plus years ago. Love my Hawaiian shirts. But if I'm going to take my wife on a trip to Alaska, I'm not going to pack based on the fact that I'm in sunny Florida wearing my Hawaiian shirts, right? I'm going to pack based on I'm going to be sitting in Alaska and it could be 40 degrees. As you plan your business, think about that for a moment. Think about planning for the destination and not the departure point. So that strategic vision really helps us understand where we want our goals to go. And it gives us a tangible reason to go execute the goals and get to work. And so for a military guy like me and Don, it reverse engineers your success, right? Reverse engineering is a term on a battlefield. We never want the enemy to get our weapons, our gear, or our communications, right? Because if they can get a finished product, they can deconstruct that product down to the individual nuts and bolts and springs. And then once they've reverse engineered it, they now know how to go recreate it. And we don't want that because that takes away our tactical advantage. Well, your business is the same way, right? We want to walk it back from the finished product, the big strategic vision, all the way down into the individual components of the plan we're going to execute. And that's kind of how we're going to lay this out today. If there are questions as I go, please drop them in the chat and I'll make sure I get to all of them as we push to the end. All right. So as I said, start with the destination in mind. Most agents or any business owner for that matter, when they set a yearly goal, they do one of two things. They say, well, I'm brand new, so I don't really have a metric. Therefore, I'll set a really easy goal. That's not the best way to set a really great goal. Or what most agents do is they'll say, well, I did this many deals last year, so anything better than that is an improvement. I'll just set a goal that's a little bit better than that. And they cheat themselves out of a really successful year because they're not planning off the destination of where do I want my business to go long term. They're planning off of, well, this is what I did last year, so I can throw myself a softball and I can make that. Well, that cheats you. So we don't want to cheat you. So when we lay out this strategic vision, I want you to get really detailed with it, get very granular. So here's what I tell people to do. If absolutely everything goes your way over the next 5 or 10 years, what does that look like for you now, right? Where are you at? What are you doing? Who are you doing it with? How have your finances changed because of the great success you were able to build? What are you able to do now for your community or for civic organizations or for your family that you're not able to do at the moment because of the bills and everything else? And why? Why do you want to move towards that vision? When you have that kind of clarity on where you're trying to move to, your goals simply become an action, a stepping stone to get you there. And when you go reverse engineer this, you're going to set a far more audacious goal. That's very important, right? We don't want to set a goal that's easy to achieve because we're cheating ourselves out of success if we make it easy to achieve, right? And so as you walk through that, write that story out for yourself, right? What does that look like and how does it lay out? And keep that in mind as you start to build your goal. That goal should be moving you towards that strategic vision. And as I said earlier, it's going to reverse engineer your success. It's going to help you set real actionable goals that are worth achieving. And then what we'll do from there is we'll break that annual goal down into monthly milestones that you can track and keep up on your business. That's another thing agents do horribly wrong, is they set an annual goal and then they look at it 11 months later and realize, ooh, no, not going to make it. And at that point, it's too late to fix anything. So the monthly milestone will help you track along and make adjustments as you need to. It holds you accountable because you know there's some tangible at the end of this, why we're doing it. And then you start taking the right actions every single day to win at whatever it is you're trying to win at when you set yourself up for success this way. All right, so let's jump into the nuts and bolts of this. After we've cast our strategic vision, right? We know long-term where we want our success to take us. Now we're going to sit down and we're going to create an annual goal, right? Now that we know where we're trying to go, we are going to make an annual goal that gets us there. So I always call this creating your BHAG, right? If you're not familiar with the acronym BHAG, it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. It's just a fancy way to say, listen, we're not checking a box here. We're not throwing ourselves a softball. Your goal should be so audacious that when you read it to yourself out loud, you should question whether or not you can achieve it. So imagine that for a minute. You set a goal, you break down your annual goal, you read it to yourself out loud. If you go, oh yeah, I can do that, it's not big enough. You're cheating yourself. Don't do that. If you read your goal out loud and you go, yeah, I think we can get there, it's not big enough. You're cheating yourself. That goal should make you blush. When you read it the first time, you should instantly go, that's going to be tough. That's a goal worth achieving. And then from that, we'll start talking about the actions we put in place. So what you see on the bottom of these PowerPoint slides is what I'm going to send you in that Word document that Don put in the chat already to allow you to walk this through for you, your goal, your market metrics. I'm going to teach you how to take that annual goal and break it all the way down into success. And so as an example, there's only 3 things that you need to know to be able to do this exercise. How much money do I want to make this year? What is the average commission in my market? And what is the average sales price in my market? If you know those 3 things, you can accomplish this task with the Word document I sent you. So I'm going to use an example here. It's easy math, but it's very achievable for most agents. So let's say we want to make $240,000. I don't know too many people that would balk at the idea of making $250,000 a year. I use 240 instead of 250 because it's easy math. Now, I do know some agents that are like, well, I don't want to take a pay cut. I mean, I don't want to just do 240. But for most agents, that's a pretty audacious goal. Okay. If it's 100 for you, great. When you do this for yourself, write it as 100. If it's 6, I had a guy on a call who all he wanted to do was transition from his business, his job, into real estate full time. His only goal was 60,000. We walked him through the exercise and he went, oh, I only got to close 5 deals a year. I'm going to do more than that. Right. And so we know in this example, I want to make $240,000 a year. My market's still 3%. If you control the listings in your market, you might be 3 to 3.5%. If you're working more with buyers, you might see 2.5 to 3. Do this exercise based on your market metrics. I'm showing you how to do it so you can do it on your own with the Word document. And then the average sales price, we're going to call it 350, right? Again, if you're in a high price market and it's 700, great, write 700. And then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out, okay, we know what our annual goal is now, 240. That's easy. That math's going to carry over. And I want you to account for any major marketing or ad spend or any business expenses that are recurring every month and every year. And I don't mean like MLS fees and realtor associations, right? Everybody's got those. That's not a big thing. I mean, if you're out there paying like $5,000 a month to some lead generator, please don't. I'll show you how to do it for free. Account for that money. If you're have a VA and you're paying them $3,000 a month to run your social media, right? Account for those business expenses. Now, in most cases, that number is going to be zero. If you're paying for lead gen, I teach people how to do it for free. So we'll get you to zero. And then most people don't have VAs and things yet, especially newer agents. So that means the actual revenue, the GCI we need to create is going to be 240. Now, most agents will say at this point, yeah, but my broker's not amazing and I have a split. And I get that. That's fine. I'm going to use GCI as our example only because it's universal, regardless of your broker, regardless of your splits. We can work through GCI and you'll understand the concept. At the end of it, by all means, say, well, 240,000, but I got a 70-30 split. So 240 times 70, I know that I'll actually bring home X. Rework your numbers accordingly, but I'm going to walk you through the exercise with GCI for easy math. Okay. So if we don't have expenses to account for, our revenue goal is the same as our income goal. That becomes very simple. So we know we need $240,000 in actual GCI. We know that our average commission is 3%. Again, whatever your numbers are, that's what you're going to put in this Word document. All you're going to do now is take your revenue goal and divide it by the commission percentage. So in this case, $240,000 divided by 3% gives us $8 million. That tells me that I need to close $8 million in volume at my average commission in order to generate the amount of money that I want to generate. Okay. And if I'm moving too fast, you guys let me know. I want to walk through this so we can get to the other stuff as well. So 8 million in volume is what I have to do. That's my annual volume goal. 8 million gets me where I want to go. With a sales price of 350,000, 8 million divided by 350,000, I now know that I have to close 22.85 deals a year. Let's call that 23 deals a year, right? Sounds about like 23 to me. So I have a volume goal, 8 million a year. I have a transaction goal, 23 deals a year. Don't stop there, because if you stop there, then you're falling into the same trap that every other agent falls into, which is I'm going to set an annual goal. I'm going to go get busy. I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to come back to my goal 10 or 11 months later, and I'm going to go, ooh, we are not going to make it. And it's going to be too late. So take this one step further. After you've created your annual goal, I want you to divide those numbers by 12. Simple math, right? Anybody can do this. So in that same scenario we just walked through, I now know that my monthly milestone is $20,000 a month or 1.9 deals. We're going to call that 2 deals a month, right? I now have a metric that I can track my business with every single month. And it's very simple, right? At the beginning of the month, you're going to look backwards. Did I make 20 grand or close 2 deals? Look forward. Am I under contract to close 2 deals and make 20 grand? It's a simple yes or no. You are either hitting your milestones or you are not. If you are, fantastic. All you have to do now is replicate the success that you've already created by building out your calendar in advance. We'll get to that in a moment, and do the same level of activity to build your business. But if you're not, if you look at your milestones and you're not on track, have that gut check with yourself and understand that there are only one of 2 things that can happen now. We either must do more business building activity, or we must get smarter with what we're already doing in order to generate a better ROI on the time we're spending. Those are the only 2 ways to slice this. So this is kind of like when you first build out a budget, when you get new to finances, right? You get it how you think you want it, and the first 60 to 90 days, there's some tweaks. This is no different. As you build out your calendar and you say, okay, well, on Monday, I'm going to do this for an hour, or Wednesday, I'm going to do this for an hour. We'll talk about that in a minute. You're going to do that for 4 weeks in a row. And then your monthly milestone is going to come around. You're going to go, did I close enough? Nope. Am I under contract? Nope. Let's go back to the drawing board. 1 hour didn't cut it. Maybe I do 2 hours. Maybe I do 3. Maybe I do something else that generates better return on my investment. But you have to be willing to pause, analyze, and adjust as that monthly milestone speaks to you very clearly. Okay, last thing I want you all to do, and again, in the Word document, I've got this laid out for you. I want you to write a letter to yourself explaining why that annual goal matters to you. Because I guarantee you it's not the money. Whether you want to make 24,000 or 2.4 million, there's something else behind the money. We are really not that driven by money. So maybe it's a family thing. Maybe it's preparing for retirement. Maybe it's you want to be a philanthropist. I don't know. There's something behind the money. Write that letter to yourself. Put it on paper. Why you're doing what you're doing. Why you know this gets you where you want to go, and write it down. Then, last but not least, on that letter that you write to yourself, I want you to come up with a very clear, tangible, actionable reward that you will give someone else when you accomplish the goal. The reward is not for you, okay? If you accomplish your goal, congratulations, you just made $250,000 this year. You've already been rewarded. The reward is for somebody else. And there's a very specific reason why. We as human beings are far more motivated by what we might lose than by what we might gain, right? If I made a goal to make $240,000 and I only made $190,000 instead, I would go, I made $190,000. I'm okay. It doesn't really hurt. But if I give someone else a reward when I accomplish my goal, the reverse of that is I now cheat that person out of something if I don't accomplish my goal. And now somebody has to lose because I didn't do my part. And that will make this sticky. That will give this goal some teeth. So as a quick example, if you have kids and you live in Orlando, like one agent that I was coaching not that long ago, we talked about maybe her tangible reward is that she sits down, she writes her goals, and then she tells her children that if she accomplishes the goal, mommy's taking the whole family to Disney for a week. Your kids are going to be great accountability partners. They're not going to let you forget about it. But more importantly, as a mother, she would not want to sit down in front of her kids 11 months later and say, sorry, kiddos, we're not going after all. I didn't do it. And so that level of almost embarrassment, right? That level of failure that we have to now project onto someone else gives us a solid reason to go put in the work every day. Okay, so do that for yourself. That's important, right? Write that letter to yourself to figure out what that tangible goal will be for someone else. And then all the better if you tell that person that you set a goal and the reward is you're going to do that thing for that person or that organization, right? Tell somebody else about that reward because it will help hold you accountable to it. And again, if there are questions, drop them in the chat. I promise we'll get to those. Now, the next phase of this, right? At this point, we've walked through our strategic vision. We've laid out very clear annual goals. We've broken those goals down into monthly milestones that we can now track. Now we have to start putting in the execution phase of this. So we're going to build out our success in advance. I want everyone that's on the call to do me a favor right now and grab your cell phone. Grab your cell phone and open up your Google Calendar or your iPhone calendar, or whatever calendar system you're using. Go ahead and grab it. And I want you to thumb over to Sunday. And I want you to think for a moment on your Sunday evening, after dinner, before bedtime. There's a quiet spot in there, right? Maybe all of it's quiet. Maybe that's 6, 7, 8 o'clock, whatever it looks like for you. Put a block of calendar time for 30 minutes on a Sunday evening to meet with yourself. Set it to repeat every single Sunday. And then figure out, before you hit save on this, figure out where am I going to sit quietly with no distractions so that I can clear my head and think for 30 minutes. And then hit save on that calendar item. That is step one on building out your success. If you didn't do that, you just cheated yourself, because we're going to keep on rolling, and it's going to be based on you having this meeting with yourself every single Sunday so that you can lay out your entire calendar in advance. On Sunday evening, when you sit down and you build out your calendar, I use 3 priority levels. This is Walt Key's way to do it. I've coached a lot of agents. They all seem to really like it. If you got something different, by all means do it, but this tends to work really well. Everybody's heard the term work-life balance. I'm here to tell you that does not exist. That is a fallacy that somebody made up so they can tell you that you're doing it wrong and sell you something. It doesn't exist. It never will. You don't need work-life balance. You need properly prioritized work and life to be productive while not feeling like you're stepping on your own time. This is how that looks. Priority number 1, family, life. Life is more important. So we call these the can't miss items. These are things that are important to you and your family, but you do not get to control the timing. Okay, so that might be a doctor's appointment. The kiddo has a ballet recital. There's a soccer match. The dog has a vet appointment, right? These things have to happen, but you don't necessarily get to control the timing of them. Put those on your calendar first. And I promise you, after you laid out your week in advance, and you'll know when there's a doctor's appointment 7 days in advance, that stuff is easy to book. Once you've built out priority number 1 and you look at your calendar for the week, you're going to go, oh, yep, I've got plenty of time to build my business. I see the white space. I see the gaps. Now we're going to start prioritizing our business. And so I call these the must-do items. These are things that you have to do in order to grow your business. So active prospecting is a huge one that most agents miss completely. You have to be doing something on a disciplined, consistent basis to put yourself in front of opportunities to connect with people, to build relationships, to serve them well so that you can close business, right? The active prospecting is what leads into things like buyer consultations, listing appointments, having a conversation with another business professional to create a partnership where you share business, right? There's lots of great things in that mix. You gotta put some active prospecting on your calendar consistently. And then you gotta hold yourself to that and you gotta do it. Follow-up should be on your calendar, right? I like a 30-minute window in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening just for a follow-up. That doesn't mean that you can't follow up throughout gaps in your day, but if you plan your day out very well, you're gonna need a dedicated follow-up space so that you never drop the ball on your clients because you're busy working and growing your business. Last but not least, priority number 3. I call this the everything else category. Whatever you want to do that's important to you in your personal life, put it on your calendar in advance. Here's what I mean by this. I'll give you a tangible example. Let's say my wife's been through a lot, right? She had a nasty surgery recently. She's in recovery mode right now. She's finally at a point where she can get back in the car and drive around. So let's say I want to take my wife to dinner on Friday night and I'm planning out my week on Sunday. I'm going to put on my calendar Sunday evening, dinner Friday, 6 to 8. And you might say, well, Walt, I don't need to be reminded I love my wife. Yeah, neither do I. But here's what happens. If you're growing your business, here's what happens. On Tuesday, somebody goes to Google realtor in Keystone Heights, Florida, and they see my ugly mug with all my 5-star reviews, and they want to call me and do business. Ring, ring, right? I'm on the phone. It's Tuesday. I'm in work mode. I'm not thinking about Friday. I'm thinking about now. And they say, hey, we're from Jersey and we want to buy a second home. We're going to come down to Florida. We're going to be there this weekend. We'd love to see these 5 or 6 houses. Can we start on Friday night? All I have to do is go, hold on 1 second. Let me check my calendar. Actually, I'm already booked on Friday, but we could start first thing Saturday morning if you want. 9 a.m. Perfect. Send me that property list and I will get you all set up. Can't wait to meet you. I did not have to cancel on my wife. I did not have to overbook myself. I don't have to call brand new clients back to explain to them that apparently I'm just a schmuck in a Hawaiian shirt that can't manage his own time because I'm actually not available. Let's reschedule, right? That's a horrible first impression to make on your client. That's why we put the other stuff, the picnic at the park with the kids, the let's take the boat out on Sunday, the dinner with my wife on Friday. We put those on our calendar in advance so that our personal time never steps on business and our business time never steps on why we're doing business anyway, which is the personal time with our friends and family. So if you follow these 3 priorities and you build out your calendar 1 week in advance, you will absolutely be successful. I promise you. Here's a couple other tips about how this lays out. This is an actual screenshot of my calendar. You do not have to do what I do. You do not have to wake up at 5 a.m. to go run. I'm a former marathon runner. I love to run. You don't have to do that, but you understand the concept. You'll notice everything in blue is mine. The red thing is my wife's. You'll notice a couple things about how my calendar is laid out. 1, nothing is duplicated. That's why we have priorities. I'm not trying to do 2 things at once. I am focused on 1 priority at a time. I'm more efficient. I don't make mistakes. I don't drop a ball. I don't overbook, because one thing at a time, nothing gets put in 2 time slots. There's several different great medical studies out there that have shown that multitasking does not work. You're 40% more prone to errors. You are 3 times likely to overbook and miss something. And they actually did a study of adult males that they had them do one primary task at a time, and then they had them do the exact same task, multitasking, multiple tasks, and their IQ dropped to that of an 8-year-old child. That's an actual study. Multitasking doesn't work. Don't waste your time trying to do it. You cannot do more things than one better than you can do one thing well. So focus in on those priorities. And that's how that works. So you'll notice on my particular calendar, 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m., there's some follow-up time built in. If there's white space in between your meetings, no big deal. Follow up as you will. But this ensures that you never go with more than a couple, 2-3 hours without following up with your clients and keeping tabs on business. Now, last thing I'll say is never book something on your calendar with a smaller increment than 30 minutes. Again, it's the science. It's not Walt Key. It's actual documented science. It takes the human brain several minutes to transition from one primary task to the other. So if you've got something that you think will take 15 or 20 minutes, go ahead and book it for 30. You got a deal that you're doing, it's going to be 45 minutes, go ahead and book it for 60. That gives your brain a chance to transition into the next task at full capacity after you wind down the other. And if you wind up with gaps in your day, that's okay. You can follow up. You can do some other things in the gaps. So that's how we lay out our calendar in advance to be successful. If there's any questions about that, please drop it in a note. Let me know. Here's my one philosophical thing. I know everyone on this call, everyone listening out in the interwebs has heard the term knowledge is power. I am here to tell you, you have been lied to your entire life. Knowledge is not power. It never has been. Knowledge is potential. But if you don't go execute on the knowledge that you gain, it's absolutely powerless to you. There's a really smart guy that once said, knowledge without execution is like a boat in the sand. It looks really nice, but it's not taking you anywhere. That was me. So you have to put disciplined, consistent action into your calendar or in order to build the success that you want with whatever active prospecting strategies you're going to do. I talk about discipline versus motivation, right? I use an analogy because I'm a former marathon runner. It's an interesting analogy. When I was active duty Navy stationed in Nebraska, my marathon trainings happened through the winter so I could prepare for a spring run. That meant I had to be at work in a uniform at 7:30, but yet I still had to go train for a marathon before work. I was waking up at 3:45 a.m. in December in negative 20-degree weather to go train. Motivation does not exist at 3:45 a.m. in Nebraska in the winter. It is not there. The discipline is what gets you towards whatever goal you want to achieve, right? Motivation is fickle. Like I could watch the New York Marathon on TV and be super motivated. I'm like, I want to go run right now. But in the morning, when it's time to go put in the work, the motivation is gone. Just as easily as it came in, it's went out. And so you have to have the consistent, repetitive actions to build the discipline. And then here's the cool thing about it. It doesn't really take that long. Discipline will create habits, and habits will create a winning lifestyle. Studies have shown it takes roughly 3 weeks to start a new habit and make it comfortable. So the first 3 weeks of doing something different is a grind, right? You might have to really force yourself into it. But after about that 3-week mark, it becomes far more natural. It's easy to do. When you hit about the 3-month mark of doing it consistently, it's your new lifestyle now. You start saying things like, I don't know when I started doing it. I don't know why I never did it before. I love this. This is just what I do now. It takes about 3 months to get to that point of this is just what we do now. But if you put in the consistent, disciplined action onto your calendar in advance, and then you wake up Monday morning, crack your knuckles, and go to work, you hold yourself accountable to the actions and the success that you built already on Sunday evening, you will see results from that, I promise you. All right. Now, I'm going to go really quick through these last couple slides because I know we're already pushing after 11:30, and then we'll open this up for a quick Q&A. Leverage technology every chance you get to streamline your day and make yourself more efficient, right? I said grab your cell phone and go to your calendar. I didn't say pull out your day planner and open up your calendar. If you can get to a point of electronic calendars, you can do lots of great things with that electronic calendar, right? I can set a reminder. I can invite somebody else. I can ensure that I don't miss anything, right? As opposed to it being paper and then you forget to look at the paper and you forget. Your contact management is the same way. Automate your CRM to let it nurture your relationships for you, right? You can do that in a whole lot of different ways. Even things like if I'm going to go do house showings, use technology to build out the route for you. There are apps for that. Well, they'll say, well, if you're looking at these 8 houses and you're going to start here and end here, here's the most efficient way to drive these routes to save your time and gas. Lean into that and really leverage that technology to help you. Conference calls is a no-brainer these days, right? We teach an entire course at my coaching program on how to get your buyer rep agreements done via Zoom. Why would I drive 45 minutes to meet a client somewhere, to have a 1-hour conversation about the buying process, to then drive back 45 minutes and then send them an electronic buyer rep agreement? I just wasted an hour and a half plus my gas money. I could have jumped on Zoom with that buyer, had the same conversation, put the buyer rep agreement in place, did everything I was going to do anyway, but I just built 45 minutes either way. I built an hour and a half back into my week. If I do 2 to 3 buyer consultations a week, I've got hours now that I can go build my business with. So really think about, how do I leverage technology to make me more efficient and save my time for the most productive activities that are going to grow my business? All right, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to unshare my screen for a minute because I knew I threw a lot of data at everybody. What questions do we have up to this point? Feel free to come off mute or drop it in the chat. Let's walk and talk through this a little bit before we wrap up.
Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Of the PowerPoint or of the Word document that helps you walk through it?
The Word document I have,
Beautiful.
but the PowerPoint.
I don't have the PowerPoint saved, but if you want to drop your email in here, I can upload it to my Google Drive and I can send it to you. Sure, I don't mind.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. What other questions do we have? The one thing that sometimes comes up, I'll preempt it, is, okay, that sounds great. I love it, Walt, but what active prospecting strategies do I put on my calendar? There's no great answer to that, because here's the truth. There are dozens of fantastic ways to build a real estate business. And I could sit here and teach you for 70 hours all the different things you could do, but you don't want to try to do it all because you won't do anything well. And not all of those strategies are going to make sense for who you are as a person, the way you communicate, your own personality type. And so what I typically do with agents is I'll sit down with them first and have a conversation, and then we'll talk about the 2 to 3 strategies that make the most sense for them so they can put those on their calendar. Because there's a lot of things, but there's too many things for you to try to do everything. And you only need to do a few things really well and really consistently to have a wildly successful business. All right, Robin, I've got your email there. I will save that. And then as soon as I get that uploaded, I will kick it over your way.
Yeah, and I don't have a question on this, but I did want to make mention I love the fact that you mentioned about having far more audacious goals and don't cheat yourself out of success on there. Yeah. And then also you need to develop the habit, and then it becomes a lifestyle on there. So it takes work, people. It takes work.
It is amazing how many people, and it's not that they're doing anything necessarily wrong, right? They're not trying to do something that doesn't work for them per se. But when you start talking about goals, they just don't think long-term enough to see their own potential and really make a goal that moves them there, right? So a lot of people, I call it softballs, right? A lot of people will make a softball goal where they just say, well, this is good enough. Well, listen, here's 87% of real estate agents fail. That's a statistical fact. 87% fail. So let's not say that it's good enough. Let's make sure it's going to get you to success over the next 3, 4, 5 years. I just dropped a link in the chat for anyone else that's on the call. And Don, you're welcome to share that on any other channels that you have. That's all my contact info in one spot. So if you're a social media guy or gal and you want to follow me on social, it's in there. If you want to email me, send me a phone call, everything that you might need to ask me a question after this wraps up. If you hear it later, you can go to that link and you can shoot me a note and ask me a question. I'm more than happy to help any chance I can.
Absolutely. And Walt, we really do appreciate the time that you spent with us today. This is going to this has the potential just in itself to change a lot of people's lives and their thoughts and how they conduct their business on there. I know personally I've learned a number of things that can assist me with that. You know, I'm going back to what the comment about your multitasking on there and the drop in level. I'm going, what did they do? Do the test on Marines? But you know,
Yeah,
I think the first test, you know, I think the first task wouldn't have achieved the results it did. So
yeah. That's funny.
had to get the dig in there. So
Yeah, love it.
we love all of our services though.
Absolutely.
Walt, again, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And we'll make sure to share this. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap this up?
Just wanted to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.
None of these concepts are particularly new to me, but the more you hear them, the more it becomes a part of who you are. And doing those practices and hearing that successful people do these practices, you don't feel as defeated when things don't work out like we planned. Somebody said to me the other day, I was supposed to take a Friday off. I said, I have got to decompress. And so I called in with a real estate question, and she goes, I thought you were taking today off. I said, you know, real estate. Because that's really how it is. And I love that you've blocked out time, you know, when you're committed to your family or doing these certain things, you have to schedule that, because if you don't, something else is going to take it over. Because real estate, getting into this, I've worked in multiple fields, and of all the things that I've done in my lifetime, this is by far the fastest changing, most complicated. It has so many moving parts. It's not just real estate. If you don't understand all the things that plug in, your title companies, your lenders, whatever else. I mean, for me, earlier this week, I drove to Rutledge, Tennessee, which is like a 2-point-something hour drive, to pick up to drop off an earnest money check and to pick up the commission check. Before I got there, they said, well, why don't we just take the earnest money out of this commission check and you can keep that one? And so I already know I'm not going to be doing business with them again, because what am I supposed to do with a check for an earnest money? Because I didn't hold it as an individual. How do you not know this as a title company?
Yeah.
I mean, little tiny things like that don't seem to matter are critical in the way that we do business and how we handle our people.
Absolutely. No doubt.
So thanks for just reiterating and going over these things and reminding us how important blocking things off and paying attention and only doing one thing at a time before you move on to the next one.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody. Continue to invite others to these Zooms. Of course, they're recorded. They'll be on the YouTube channel. So subscribe to Awesome VA Home Loan Guy and on YouTube. That's one place. We're also looking at other opportunities as well. But think of me on not just VA loans, but other loans as well. I'm licensed in 5 states. So, hey, we got to put that in there. That's we're all about trying to find the right people to work with. So again, thank you so much, Walt. We would love to have you on again. I know you teach several topics on there. So
my pleasure.
So we appreciate it. Y'all have a great day. I'm going to stop